Jehovah's Witness meetings, their version of church services, are a mind control regime to condition you for absolute compliance. You sit in an auditorium, harsh fluorescent lighting, no windows, and you go through a highly structured, formulaic, systematic study of their publications and sit through several consecutive talks or lectures. Okay, there's a very strict protocol that they follow. It's like having a second job after your real job. For 30 years, I was subjected to brainwashing. It is a highly controlling environment. So the following are 10 phrases or terms that Jehovah's Witnesses have crammed into their brains since infancy. I've done other lists, other videos about Jehovah's Witness insider lingo, like their insider jargon, other triggering phrases. A lot of crossover, but specifically the words in this list. These are terms that were used with the distinct purpose to manipulate our emotions, to get us to feel guilty, confess, to really just get in your head, and eventually coerce you into doing something that went against your better judgment. All right, if you're looking for a church that's constantly reminding you of your brokenness, look no further. Jehovah's Witnesses are constantly reminded that they are recipients of Jehovah's undeserved kindness, giving his son as a ransom sacrifice. That was his big act of undeserved kindness. I would have been okay with this, or it wouldn't have screwed with my head so much if it was like, okay, I'm a broken sinner. Thank you so much for giving us your only begotten son. I believe in him. I'm saved. But Jehovah's Witnesses' interpretation isn't that this is just a gift. No. Now you have to show appreciation for this gift by doing everything that we tell you to do. You have to do all these things that we require of you as a corporation, which, by the way, is not in the Bible. You have to attend all the meetings, to go out knocking on doors. Importantly, you have to be baptized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses to be saved. This is blasphemous. They are gatekeeping salvation. You have to work for your salvation. So, not only am I this horrible broken sinner that needs to be saved, but now you're also giving me this gift with strings attached. This word, more than any other word on this list, absolutely makes my skin crawl. The word unclean. Jehovah's Witnesses love to use this. The word unclean is an example of white bear theory at its finest. Don't think about a white bear. What are you going to think about? When Jehovah's Witnesses hear the word unclean, it's referring to one of two things. The first thing being basically anything that would defile or oppose their way of worship. So basically someone like me who's criticizing the teachings and the policies of the organization, they want to keep me out of the congregation. They want to keep the congregation clean. Or, any wrongdoers, people who they perceive to be wrongdoers, or someone who they perceive to be a dangerous influence. And here's the thing about this one. I would actually have respect for them if they were referring to people who were actively approaching them, like actively approaching their place of worship, being openly hostile, violent, or, just openly insubordinate and disrespectful. I have a YouTube channel, but I'm not driving up to a Kingdom Hall trying to cause problems. So basically, when you say unclean, it's a really loaded term. You're basically calling anything that's not approved by the organization, not rubber stamped, automatically morally wrong or defiled. And 2, going back to white bear theory, Jehovah's Witnesses are constantly being told to avoid being sexually unclean. This is the dumbest thing you can do because it literally has the opposite effect. By constantly demonizing sex and attempting to micromanage your parishioner's conscience, you are creating the problem. I'm not saying that having a conservative stance on marriage and sex and waiting because those are your values, you truly believe that's what's important to you? Cool. What I'm saying is Jehovah's Witnesses as a religious group, they moralize sex to the extreme, thereby just drawing even more attention to it. And then Jehovah's Witnesses in turn end up developing these really weird complexes. Sexual dysfunction, pornography addiction. That's huge. They have a huge porn problem. They just have this pervasive sense of guilt and shame all the time because they keep associating human sexuality with terms like unclean. I will die on this hill by always assuming the worst of people and berating your parishioners like toddlers who have no impulse control. You are solely responsible for creating a bigger problem than there would otherwise be. So unclean just grossed me out, but this one is one of the most passive-aggressive, blood pressure-inducing displays of manipulation that took me years to figure out what was happening, took me years to detect it. Jehovah doesn't want anyone to be destroyed, but desires all to attain to repentance. Blink and you miss it. Like at first glance, that sounds great, right? Like on the surface, oh, Jehovah doesn't want anybody to be destroyed. Wow, that's like so reassuring, right? Oh, we really do. I used to think this as a kid, like, oh, we really do worship a really loving, compassionate God. Jehovah doesn't want anyone to be destroyed. But just like undeserved kindness, this is just a thinly veiled threat. All right, Jehovah doesn't want to destroy you, but he will. That's what they're saying. They're saying Jehovah will destroy you if you don't convert to being one of Jehovah's Witnesses or if you ever leave the organization. This is literally the equivalent of an abusive husband going, I really don't want to hit you, okay? Don't make me hit you. It not only taught you that you are responsible for others' feelings and actions, but it's also blatant spiritual extortion, since you're literally telling me God is going to take away my family and kill me if I ever leave the organization. So if the last one wasn't bad enough, we were also told that we need to develop a close personal relationship with Jehovah. I mean, I don't know about you guys. If I don't like a certain food, I don't want a bowl of that food shoved in my face. I don't like kale. I've never liked kale. I didn't ask for any kale. I was born into a family who shoved kale into my face at every meal. That is what it is like growing up in the Jehovah's Witnesses. You are force-fed a steady, endless diet of indoctrination. And the second that little voice pipes up, something's wrong. That little voice inside, you start listening, oh, yeah, have some more kale. Like, it feels like someone's encroaching on your personal space. Please don't touch me. Dude, like, from what I've learned about Jehovah, I have no interest in getting closer to him. I'm actually repulsed by the idea of getting closer to him. And the more you push me, the more I resent him and the more I resent you and everyone around me who's pushing him on me. It's like being forced to hug your abuser. Show affection to your abuser. And then you realize all the adults in the room are not on your side and they're not going to protect you. All right, so it's like, one, you're forcing him on me. And two, I just don't really believe in him. I'm not convinced he's real. He doesn't feel real to me. I don't see any practical evidence of Jehovah in my life. I'm not any happier being a Jehovah's Witness. In fact, I'm not happy at all. I don't feel like we're particularly blessed. But also, if you want me to have a close personal relationship with God, you seem to have a lot of say in this relationship. Like, Jehovah and I don't seem to have any privacy. Yeah, if I didn't know any better, it feels almost like I'm in a relationship with a corporation in upstate New York. It almost feels like you're conflating a relationship with God with me staying loyal to your corporate interests. So yeah, this provoked a very visceral reaction in me. Like, I felt like I was going crazy. Like, I can't breathe, but I can't pinpoint what it is. It's mind control. You know, you hear this stuff year in, year out. All right, basically by forcing this idea on me, not allowing me any breathing room to think for myself, it's like, congratulations, you achieved the exact opposite of what you were trying to achieve. What's the expression? You tell a lie long enough, you start to believe it. Jehovah's Witness publications are full of the term true worship. Just because you say this, just because you keep saying this over and over again, doesn't make it true. It doesn't make us the truth. It doesn't make us right. That's a bold claim. Everyone else is wrong. And it's really insulting to people of other faiths. Like, you don't have to agree with their beliefs, but still. So the way that Jehovah's Witnesses do their meetings, okay, for the most part, if you're not just sitting there listening, you'll have some sort of Q&A back and forth discussion. So we're reading a publication, the conductor on the stage, he reads the paragraph, asks the question, and you're supposed to basically parrot back the correct answer that's already in the paragraph. Okay, question number 5. Why should we blah, blah, blah? Okay, you. And I raise my hand, a dude in a suit comes by, brings me a mic, I say the answer, I hand it back. Okay, that's how it goes. Every congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses on the planet, there would always be at least one older sister, because we would call each other brother and sister. There was always at least one older sister who had an unbelieving husband, meaning her husband wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, and she would then use this as a platform to denigrate her husband in front of 100+ people. And like, no one ever called these women out on it, because like, my thought process was, what if your husband decides he wants to be a Jehovah's Witness? What if he comes to the Kingdom Hall one day, oh, let me learn more about this, and everyone's really cold to him and basically thinks he's a jerk? It's because of what you said. You're painting this portrait of your husband that's inaccurate, and he finds out, oh, you've been talking trash about me? Screw this, I don't want to be around you people. That's how I feel about the term true worship. You're calling every other believer, just painting the world with this singular brush. You're calling every other believer false. It was incredibly arrogant, divisive, and it's a phrase designed to shut down critical thinking. Hey, think about it. By categorizing worship in these really stark black and white terms, true worship versus false worship, it makes you, the Jehovah's Witness, when this is all you know, terrified to question it. So I actually talked about this in a recent video. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses are lonely, anxious, and depressed. So hearing the phrase Jehovah's happy people felt like an absolute masterclass in gaslighting. Like true worship, you can say this all you want, it's not going to make it true. I'm not happy. My friends weren't happy. There's Jehovah's Witnesses who go into hiding and dodge phone calls. Like I really resented being told how I felt all the time. Don't tell me how I feel. I'll tell you how I feel. But that's the rub. You can't. You can't just stand up and go, you know what? I'm actually not happy as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, right? Because then there's something wrong with you. I mean, it's like growing up in an alcoholic household, where the denial is thick. We're so happy, nothing to see here. And so what happens is when you hear this type of language repeatedly over the years, one of two things happens. You either snap, have a nervous breakdown, and then everybody can pull the mental illness card, or, you just manage to drown yourself in your own cognitive dissonance and actually start to believe it. And those people are too far gone. They're beyond saving. So this is Jehovah's Witnesses' version of praying it away. Any doubts or concerns you have, bring the matter to Jehovah in prayer. We all knew that this was code for go pray about it and you better come back with the correct answer. No, maybe I just don't want to do something. Maybe I just don't want to be an elder, serve in some higher position of authority. Maybe I don't want to spend more time knocking on doors, increasing my hours each month. No, praying to Jehovah did not take away my sexual feelings. I'm still single and lonely. And praying to Jehovah is not going to make me be okay with being single and lonely. No, I'm not going to ask for Jehovah to help me be okay with being single and lonely. And I'm not going to find a compatible partner here in the organization. It's not looking good for me. I'm going to look elsewhere. Pray to Jehovah about it is another thought-stopping technique to make sure you fall in line and reject that little voice inside that says something's off. All right, Jehovah's Witnesses are instructed to demonstrate humility. This is another thought-stopping technique and an absolutely infuriating double standard. First, they distort the definition of humility to mean blind obedience. All right, rank and file Jehovah's Witnesses, the everyday Jehovah's Witness, they're expected to show humility, accept whatever counsel comes their way, but it never works the other way around. Okay, the leaders are wrong, they make a mistake, tough shit. As part of the flock, you're just expected to shut up and eat it. That's part of your humility. There are no checks and balances. And this is obviously wildly hypocritical, yes, but it's also designed to slowly erode your self-esteem and basically keep you in a psychologically docile, malleable state. Essentially what's happening is they tear you down, right? They gotta make sure to keep you in your place. Then, when you are at your lowest point, they reach out their hand and act like they were there just in time to help pick you up. All right, so this isn't the biggest one that got me, but it is a close second. Let's say you're a Jehovah's Witness struggling with depression, burnout, you're sick of the hamster wheel, and you go into seclusion. These are called inactive people. You're at home in a nice, cold, dark room, shades drawn, and a text message pops up, or you get a knock at the door. It's your Jehovah's Witness mother, father, or someone from the congregation dropping by to give you some encouragement. Encouragement always has an ulterior motive. And no, I'm not saying that, the nice lady that you met who's a Jehovah's Witness or your family member has some sort of evil, sinister intentions. That's not what I'm saying, but it's not really about the other person. All right, encouragement in this context is an intrusive cult control strategy that involves roping a Jehovah's Witness back into the fold who you suspect is harboring subversive thoughts or tendencies. It's a check-in, it's a test. Hey, how are you? Just checking in to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Just checking to see if you're still one of us. It's like living in North Korea. You're under constant surveillance, all right? And if you resist this encouragement, you actually stand up for yourself and go off script, your Jehovah's Witness mother, father, pseudo-friends will not only report you, but leave you for dead, okay? It's either come back our way or no way. Emotional blackmail. It's a threat. So yeah, I developed a severe allergy to this word, so much so to the point that I couldn't even say the word. I literally could not say the word encouragement for years after I left the organization. Proverbs 18 verse 1. The one isolating himself is seeking his own selfish advantage. So I actually want to take this opportunity to congratulate the circuit overseer who was assigned to the Charlotte, North Carolina area in April 2017. I was hanging on by a thread. And your supremely inappropriate, zenithal degree of idiocy and recklessness gave me the final push that I needed. By you quoting the above scripture and following it up with, if you have depression, don't be selfish, you, sir, along with a host of other choice people, helped make me the apostate I am today. Selfish in the Jehovah's Witnesses means that you have career ambitions, hobbies, you want to date a certain person, you have ideas or a vision or a goal for your life that doesn't benefit the Watchtower organization. And that's what makes you selfish. And I talk about this experience specifically in my new book, Burning Down the House, Coping with Toxic Family Dynamics, Estrangement, and Rebuilding Your Life, that based on my background and my upbringing as a Jehovah's Witness, I had to learn the difference between being selfish and self-preservation. The practice of creating and implementing personal boundaries was an essential skill that I had to learn. And if it weren't for setting boundaries, I would not have been able to escape and move forward with my life, because the organization does absolutely everything in its power to exert as much control over you as possible. So if any of this sounds like you, sounds familiar, you can check out my new book, link in bio. You can also hit that like and subscribe button for future content, and I will see you in the next video.